Today, I'm giving you a simple science-backed plan to break that stubborn belly fat down in 30 days. And we're going to do it without the generic eat less, move more advice that everybody's bored of hearing. We're going to use real physiology, real triggers, real timing, and I'm going to show you exactly how to exploit the weakness built into your visceral fat. So grab a drink, sit back, because this one's going to be good. Let's get into it. First thing I want to talk about is exercise, but not in that burn 500 calories on a treadmill way. This is different. Visceral fat responds to signals, not step counts. You need to send the right signal at the right time, and the most powerful signal? Adrenaline. Your visceral fat is loaded with a unique receptor called the beta-3 adrenergic receptor. Think of it like a keyhole that only adrenaline can unlock. When adrenaline binds to these receptors, it triggers something called lipolysis, the breakdown of stored fat. Now here's the thing, normal slow cardio barely tickles these receptors. You need a short, sharp oxygen demanding push to activate the pathway properly. And this is where we talk about VO2 Max, because improving VO2 Max makes your body insanely good at mobilizing the fat during adrenaline surges. There's an actual study on this titled Associations Between Cardiorespiratory Fitness and Abdominal Adiposity, published in Obesity Indexed on PubMed. It showed that people with higher VO2 Max had significantly lower visceral fat, even if their overall body weight didn't change. That's powerful. Why? Because VO2 max training forces your body to use fat as fast available fuel under pressure. So here's what I'd do if I was coaching you right now. 3 times per week, pick one machine, rower, bike, treadmill, whatever you enjoy. Warm up, then do 4 minutes hard, about 90% effort. 3 minutes easy, repeat for 4 rounds. This protocol, often called a 4x4, creates a perfect storm of adrenaline, oxygen demand, and metabolic adaptation. But even if you do this perfectly, you're still fighting uphill unless you also deal with the hormone that locks fat in place like a vault. So now let's talk about that. Now I want to move into a topic that scares people for no reason. Insulin timing. Not insulin levels, not carbs, just timing. Because here's the truth most people miss. Visceral fat is extremely sensitive to insulin. When insulin rises after you eat, fat burning shuts off like a light switch. It's instant. There's a fascinating PubMed study titled Effects of Short-Term Fasting on Insulin Sensitivity in Healthy Men, published in Clinical Science. This study showed that even short fasting windows drastically improve insulin sensitivity and increase the activity of an enzyme called hormone-sensitive lipase, the enzyme responsible for breaking down visceral fat. So when insulin is low, 2 things happen simultaneously. Hormone-sensitive lipase goes up, adrenaline becomes more effective at the beta-3 receptors. This is why timing your eating is more powerful than cutting calories. Here's what I'd recommend for 99% of people, a simple 16 to 8 window. Finish your last meal around 7 to 8 p.m. Don't eat again until 11 to 12 the next day. This gives insulin enough time to drop, allowing your fat-burning machinery to actually turn on. And you're not starving yourself, you're just letting your biology do what it's designed to do. But while insulin is one part of the story, there's another quite hormonal driver that builds belly fat from the inside, and barely anyone talks about it properly. Let's get into that next. Now I want to talk about something most men never even think about, yet it's quietly shaping their hormones every single day. Your fat tissue isn't just sitting there, it's not just storage, it's not just extra weight, it's biologically active. It behaves like an endocrine organ and is pumping out hormones that work directly against you. Specifically, visceral fat, the deep belly fat around your organs, is loaded with an enzyme called aromatase. And aromatase has one job, convert your testosterone into estrogen. So the equation becomes painfully simple. The more belly fat you have, the more aromatase you create. The more aromatase you create, the more testosterone gets converted. The more testosterone you lose, the more estrogen rises. And the more estrogen rises, the easier it becomes to store even more fat. It's a loop that locks men into low testosterone and high fat storage without them even realizing what's happening. It's not just a cycle, it's a self-feeding metabolic engine. A trap that gets tighter the longer you're in it, but here's the part that nobody tells you. You can break that cycle way faster than you think, and one of the easiest starting points is your food, cruciferous vegetables. Broccoli, cauliflower, rocket, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, all contain a natural compound called indole carbonyl, I3C. When you eat it, your body converts it to DIM, diindole methane. DIM is powerful because it influences how your body processes estrogen. There's a PubMed study titled Modulation of Estrogen Metabolism by Indole-3-Carbinol in Humans, published in Nutrition and Cancer. This study showed that DIM shifts estrogen metabolism towards 2-hydroxyestrone, the cleaner, weaker version, and away from 16-alpha-hydroxyestrone, which is the more potent fat-storing form. In simple terms, DIM doesn't eliminate estrogen, it just pushes it into a pathway that's less aggressive, less fat-promoting, and less likely to sabotage testosterone. This is why something as simple as eating broccoli consistently can create a real measurable hormonal shift inside your fat cells. Supplements can support this too. Tonka Ali, for example, has mild aromatase inhibiting properties. It's not a magic bullet, but it can help reduce the conversion of testosterone into estrogen. Still, and this is important, no supplement will outperform the foundation of your nutrition. But even if you perfect this piece, even if you lower aromatase, support estrogen metabolism, and dial in your nutrients, we're still ignoring the big one, the hormone that sits upstream of all this, the one that quietly fuels belly fat from the inside out and keeps you stuck in survival mode instead of growth mode. The next part is wild. Now I want to get into the real villain, cortisol. Not because cortisol is bad, you need it, but because visceral fat handles cortisol differently from the rest of your body. Your belly fat has up to 4 times more cortisol receptors than other fat depots. So when cortisol rises, even slightly, your belly fat responds aggressively. But that's not the worst part. Visceral fat has a built-in enzyme called 11-beta-HSD1. This enzyme takes inactive cortisone and converts it back into active cortisol right inside the fat cell, meaning your belly fat can literally manufacture its own cortisol. There's a PubMed study titled Expression of 11-beta-hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase type 1 in human adipose tissue and its role in obesity, published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, showed that higher 11-beta-HSD1 activity in visceral fat increases local cortisol production, more fat storage, and a self-reinforcing loop. What's wild about this study is how clear the mechanism is. They found that visceral fat behaves almost like a separate hormonal ecosystem with its own rules. When researchers measured 11-beta-HSD1 levels in belly fat, the enzyme wasn't just elevated, it was predictably elevated in people who had central obesity. And the more this enzyme was expressed, the more cortisol was regenerated directly inside the tissue. In other words, even if blood cortisol wasn't extremely high, the belly fat still had a high cortisol environment internally, which drove inflammation, fat storage, and even higher aromatase activity. So how do you break the loop? 2 ways. 1. Magnesium, 300 to 500 milligrams before bed. Magnesium calms the nervous system, reduces HSP axis activation, and lowers systemic cortisol. When total cortisol drops, the raw material for 11-beta-HSD1 decreases. 2. Slow breathing, 5 minutes a day. This literally shuts down sympathetic drive. When adrenaline and cortisol fall together, visceral fat loses its fuel source. These are tiny habits, but they break the cycle from the top down and bottom up. With cortisol under control, you'll finally see results from the exercise and insulin steps. Let's finish with something extremely practical. Keeping your appetite under control. Because yes, calories matter. But what matters more is how your brain regulates hunger. There's a gut hormone called PYY and another called GLP-1. These hormones signal fullness to your brain and they respond dramatically to protein. The trick, front-loading your day with 20 to 30 grams of protein in your first meal stabilizes appetite for the next 6 to 8 hours. You're not forcing discipline, you're changing the chemical signals inside your gut. And here's the part most people miss. Protein doesn't just keep you full, it slows down dopamine-driven cravings. When your body senses a strong amino acid signal early in the day, the reward system calms down. Those random urges for sugar, snacks, or just something quick drop massively because your brain isn't hunting for easy energy anymore. This is why people who start the day with a high protein meal report fewer binges, fewer crashes, and a much more stable mood throughout the day. This makes fasting easier. This makes meal timing easier. This makes the cortisol loop easier to break. It's like putting your biology back into your own hands. And when you combine all 5 of these pieces together, adrenaline-triggered exercise, insulin timing, estrogen management, cortisol reduction, appetite control, you create the exact environment where visceral fat stops being stubborn and starts melting in the most biologically efficient way possible. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, share and subscribe. Drop a comment below and I'll see you in the next one.